The marble floors of Camp Pendleton's main command building gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, reflecting a sterile perfection that only emphasized the tension in the air. Sergeant Lena Hart walked with a precision that betrayed years of rigorous training, her boots clicking like deliberate drumbeats in an otherwise empty corridor. Her duffel swung gently against her side, perfectly balanced, perfectly timed. Every muscle in her body was aware, every eye trained, yet no one seemed to notice, or perhaps no one dared to notice, her presence. Lena's uniform was flawless. She adjusted the seam at her shoulder without hesitation, her movements economical but controlled. Every detail mattered. Attention to detail had kept her alive in the deadliest parts of the world. But this was not a battlefield. This was home, or at least it should have been. And yet, the sense of tension in the hallways felt almost tangible, like the air itself was holding its breath in anticipation of what was about to happen. Ahead, 3 Marines had planted themselves like roadblocks. Their expressions were hard, suspicious, and automatically authoritative. They had been given a name, a face, and an order: do not let anyone pass, not without clearance. The problem was, they had no idea who exactly they were blocking. "Ma'am," the tallest one said, stepping in front of her, a hand raised to halt her progress. "Restricted area, you can't go this way." Lena stopped. Her gaze didn't waver. She didn't smile, didn't argue, didn't roll her eyes. She simply nodded and lifted her duffel slightly, shifting the weight onto her shoulder. There was no malice, no threat, just a quiet determination that seemed to make the air around her heavier. "I understand," she said softly, her voice smooth, almost calm. "But I need to get through." The Marine's eyes narrowed. "I said you can't, Sergeant." His tone had sharpened, now more defensive, more commanding. Lena's eyes flicked down for just a second to her sleeve, where the small, dark green sniper patch rested. Not a mere mark of marksmanship, not just another badge. The sniper patch no one earns easily, not even among elite Marines. It was the kind of patch that demanded respect without a word being spoken. The tallest Marine's gaze followed hers, landing on the patch. His jaw went slack. The other 2 Marines blinked, then froze. In that instant, the dynamic shifted. Authority isn't about rank when it's earned in blood and snow and unspoken trials. The patch was a warning, a statement. She had survived the impossible. She had done what few could even imagine, and she carried it quietly, deliberately, like a loaded gun tucked under a coat. The hallway seemed to shrink. Time slowed, but not enough for hesitation to matter. The echo of boots, the low hum of fluorescent lights, the faint whir of air conditioning, all became part of a tense rhythm that held them captive in a single moment. One Marine swallowed hard, trying to regain composure. She's cleared for more than this," one whispered, almost audibly to himself. Before anyone could say another word, a voice came from deeper in the corridor, firm and sharp, carrying the authority of someone who had not only earned rank but commanded fear and respect effortlessly. "Who is blocking Sergeant Hart?" Every head turned instinctively toward the sound. And then came Major Keller, tall, imposing, his eyes narrowing as they scanned the 3 Marines, then Lena. He didn't move quickly, didn't rush. His presence was enough to still the room, to demand attention without a word of accusation. The 3 Marines stiffened. They had been trained to respond, to assess threats, to challenge intruders, but none of that mattered now, not when the Major recognized her. "She's in the right place," Keller said, stepping forward. His voice was low, deliberate, the kind that could freeze a man in his tracks. He paused, looked at the patch, then back at the Marines. "And you should know why." Lena's lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't need to speak. The silence was her ally, the weight of her history, her training, and her battlefield decisions hanging over the room like a storm cloud. The Marines hesitated. They wanted to ask questions, demand proof, assert authority, but something in her posture, in her stillness, stopped them. And then Keller leaned slightly closer to her, voice almost a whisper. "They know where you were deployed, and they want you to explain what happened there." Lena's heart didn't skip, but it tightened. Her jaw clenched. That deployment, Black Ridge, was one of the darkest, coldest operations she had ever survived. A mission classified beyond the highest level, the kind that left men scarred physically and emotionally, the kind that changed lives without anyone outside the operation ever understanding. Before she could respond, the hallway doors rattled. Someone had entered, someone whose presence instantly upped the tension in the air. She turned slightly. A junior officer rushed in, pale, nervous, carrying a stack of reports that threatened to slip from his hands. "Major, sir, we have an urgent situation. Motor pool security breach. They're asking for her, Sergeant Hart." The word struck her like a cold wind. Her name, spoken in the context of a breach, in a base supposedly secure, in a situation where protocol was everything. She felt the familiar rush, the clarity she had learned to love in combat, the instinct to move, to assess, to survive. But this wasn't combat. Not yet. "They're inside the base?" Keller asked, tone sharp. "Yes, sir," the officer stammered, "and they know her name." Lena inhaled slowly, weighing her next move. She didn't flinch. She didn't panic, because she had been hunted before. Outnumbered, outgunned, and yet always calculating, always steps ahead. And now, apparently, someone had followed her right onto American soil, right into the heart of a base that was supposed to be untouchable. Her eyes scanned the hallway, nodding exits, shadows, the faint reflection of lights on metal surfaces. She noticed the subtle shifts, the way the Marines instinctively reached for their weapons, the tremor in the officer's hands, the almost imperceptible hesitation in Major Keller's stance. Everything about this hallway was wrong. Everything about this moment screamed danger. And yet Lena moved forward. Because the sniper patch on her sleeve wasn't just decoration, it was a statement, a warning, a promise, that she had survived impossible situations before, that she would survive this one too. She lifted her chin. Her voice was steady, calm, unyielding. "Then let's see who it is," she said. Keller gave her a quick, almost imperceptible nod. The Marine stepped aside. The air shifted again, charged with anticipation. Someone was coming, someone with intent, someone who knew far too much about her past. The distant echo of boots grew louder, and with it, the weight of the unknown pressed down on Lena, heavy enough to make a battle-hardened Marine take notice. Because whatever, or whoever, was coming had already crossed the line. And Lena Hart, sniper patch on her sleeve glinting under the harsh lights, was ready to meet them head-on. The briefing room smelled faintly of disinfectant and old carpet. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long, uneasy shadows across the polished table where Major Keller sat waiting. Lena followed his measured pace, her boots silent against the dull gray floor. Every step felt deliberate, a precursor to confrontation, though she didn't yet know with whom, or for what. Keller didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table, hands pressed flat, fingers tense. He was tall, broad-shouldered, a presence that radiated authority without shouting it. His eyes, though, betrayed something else: unease, concern, maybe fear. Lena had seen men like this before, officers trained to command, now struggling with the weight of secrets far larger than regulations or rank. On the table lay a folder, thick, official, sealed in a way that suggested no one was ever meant to open it again. The seal had her name etched on it: Sergeant Lena Hart, Black Ridge Operation. She froze. Black Ridge. The name alone was enough to make her stomach knot. A mission buried in snow, ice, and lies. A mission where every decision had been a gamble against death and moral compromise. A mission that had taken lives, some of them her team. Keller spoke quietly, almost reverently. They reopened the incident at Black Ridge. Her pulse tightened. Why? Keller hesitated. His hands clutched the folder for a brief moment, as if steadying himself against what he was about to reveal. Because someone came forward with footage. Lena's heartbeat stilled. Footage. There should be no footage. The operation had been classified at the highest level. Cameras weren't supposed to exist. And yet, here it was, evidence she had no knowledge of, evidence that could rewrite everything she thought she understood about that day. "Who?" she asked, voice calm but every fiber in her body alert. Keller shook his head slightly. "They haven't revealed their identity, only that the footage is credible." Her throat went dry. Credible, the word was loaded, dangerous, potentially career-ending, potentially life-ending. He slid the folder toward her. The weight of it on the table felt heavier than any duffel she'd ever carried into a combat zone. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted the cover. Inside was a single grainy still frame from a video. Snow swirled violently across the mountainside, obscuring shapes in white. Then a shadow emerged, a rifle in hand, her scope view, but not her hands on it. Her pulse jumped. The angle, the focus, it was unmistakable. Someone had been on the ridge with her, someone who had recorded everything she had done, every movement, every decision, every life-or-death choice. Before she could respond, the door slammed open. A young Marine corporal barged in, out of breath, face pale. "Major, sir, someone breached the East Motor Pool. They're asking for her, Sergeant Hart." The words landed like a hammer. Her name, her alone, in the context of a security breach. That wasn't just coincidence. That was targeted. "They're inside the base?" Keller asked sharply. "Yes, sir," the corporal stammered. They know her name. They said they have something to show her." Lena's stomach clenched. Whoever they were, they had tracked her to a military base, bypassed the most secure zones, and they knew her history well enough to ask for her specifically. "Show me," she said, almost casually, though the words carried the weight of a warning. Keller's eyes flicked toward her, a silent question. She simply nodded and he gestured to follow. By the time they reached the motor pool, chaos had begun to unfurl. The sprawling open area, usually filled with the orderly rows of Humvees and logistics vehicles, was now tense, electric. Marines were sprinting in every direction. Alarm sirens wailed in harsh cycles, echoing off the metal walls and concrete floor. Inside the motor pool stood a lone figure, calm, almost unnervingly so. He was young, no older than 18, maybe less. Hands raised in surrender but eyes sharp, alert. In his trembling fingers was a small black device, an encrypted drive. Lena froze, every instinct kicking in. He wasn't armed, not conventionally, but in his eyes was something far more dangerous than any rifle: knowledge. "Are you Sergeant Lena Hart?" the boy asked. His voice cracked slightly. I need to show you something they don't want anyone to see." The MPs raised weapons instinctively, preparing for any threat, but the boy didn't flinch, not an inch. "I have proof," he said, voice trembling. "Proof of what really happened at Black Ridge. I'm the only one who can bring it to light." Her pulse quickened. A voice from the past, a lost team member, speaking through the only family left, her deathly silent, invisible chain of accountability. The MPs hesitated. Major Keller stepped forward. "We don't know this kid. How do we verify anything?" The boy, Elias Mercer, pulled the encrypted drive closer to his chest. "My brother, he was in that convoy, he didn't make it, and the footage, it's there, on this drive." Lena's breath caught. She remembered that convoy. She remembered the snow, the wind tearing at their gear, the distance between life and death measured in inches. And she remembered the silence afterward, how quickly it had been buried under official reports, how quickly the truth had been rewritten. A faint unease crept over her. Someone else had been there, filming, observing, witnessing. And that meant the story everyone believed, the sanitized version she had been told to report, was a lie. Keller gestured to the tech specialist already at a nearby laptop. Fingers flew over the keyboard, connecting the drive, bypassing encrypted layers with alarming speed. "Let's see what's on it," he muttered. The screen flickered to life. Grainy footage appeared, snow whipping across a mountainside, blizzard conditions reducing visibility to almost nothing. Shapes moved against the white. Then, unmistakably, a rifle scope aligned. Her scope view, but not her hands controlling it. Her stomach dropped. Someone had been watching. Someone had been documenting every shot she had taken, every decision she had made. And if that wasn't enough, there was a voice. Soft, chilling, almost intimate, whispering just off camera. She's not going to take the shot. She won't do it. Lena's eyes narrowed. The whisper wasn't just a voice. It was accusation, manipulation, a warning. The convoy in the footage moved forward. And she did what she had done in the field, following orders she believed were right, every shot measured, precise. The convoy erupted. Flames, smoke, Marines inside screaming, trapped, pain, death. And then the voice again, "You see, she failed." Elias' voice trembled as he stared at her. "My brother, he was in that truck." The room went silent. Only the hum of monitors, the occasional beep, and Lena's shallow breath filled the space. She shook her head slowly. "That isn't the truth. Someone edited this. Someone wants to bury what really happened to make it look like I caused it." Keller leaned back, the weight of disbelief written across his face. "Then what really happened, Sergeant?" Her eyes hardened. The snow, the wind, the ridge, the orders, they all came rushing back. "The convoy wasn't ours," she said, voice steady despite the surge of anger and guilt. "And there was someone else on the ridge that day, someone I couldn't identify, someone who made sure only certain people survived." Elias swallowed hard, eyes wide. "I know who he is." Lena's pulse spiked. The drive, the footage, the breach, they were no longer random events. They were part of a pattern, a plan. And the name he was about to give her would change everything. The East Motor Pool was massive, the concrete floor echoing every hurried step, every shouted command. Lena Hart's boots fell silently as she followed Major Keller and 2 MPs toward the breach. The usual hum of generators and the scent of diesel were drowned out by the tension in the air. Every soldier present seemed on edge, their eyes darting to shadows, to corners, to every potential hiding spot. And then she saw him. A single figure standing motionless in the center of the motor pool. No uniform, no weapon, yet an unmistakable aura of danger radiated from him. He was young, 18 at most, but his eyes told a story far older than his years. Fear, determination, and a knowledge no civilian should possess. He held a small, black, encrypted drive in trembling fingers. The MPs instinctively raised their weapons. Lena didn't flinch. She didn't need to. The boy's voice broke the tense silence. "Are you Sergeant Lena Hart?" She nodded slightly. "I am. Who are you?" "I'm Elias Mercer," he said, voice quivering. "My brother, he was part of Black Ridge. He didn't come home, and I have proof of what really happened. I need to show you." Major Keller's face darkened. "We don't know him. How can we trust anything he's saying?" Elias' gaze hardened, unwavering. "Because if you don't, then the truth about Black Ridge, everything that happened there, will remain buried, forever. And my brother's death will be for nothing." Lena's heart clenched at the words. Her pulse hit a steady, controlled rhythm, one that had saved her countless times in the field. She had seen death and betrayal up close, had made impossible decisions under extreme conditions, but this was different. This was personal, and the weight of responsibility now fell squarely on her shoulders. Keller gestured to the MPs. "Hold your fire, let him speak." Elias took a shaky step forward. "They're coming. The same people from Black Ridge. They know I have this." A shiver ran down Lena's spine. Someone else had survived that mission. Someone else had been observing her, someone dangerous, and they were now on American soil, inside a military base after a teenager. The encrypted drive gleamed in Elias' hands. "Everything, every shot, every movement, every order is recorded on here. It shows what really happened, and it proves that the official reports are lies." Lena's mind raced. She remembered the convoy, the snow, the wind tearing through her gear, making each shot a fight against nature itself. The convoy she had believed she had protected, only to learn that someone had manipulated the outcome. And now a boy was telling her that her history, the carefully constructed story she had been forced to live with, was a lie. Keller crouched slightly over the laptop stationed in the corner of the motor pool. Fingers flew over the keys, decrypting the drive at a speed that suggested urgency beyond normal protocol. The screen flickered to life, displaying grainy, storm-lashed footage of the ridge. Snow whipped across the mountainside, shapes barely visible through the blizzard. And then, a rifle scope aligned with a distant convoy. Lena froze. She knew that view, it was her scope perspective, but the hands guiding the rifle were not hers. Her stomach twisted. Someone had been watching, documenting, recording every decision, every calculated shot. And worse, someone had been whispering in her ear through the recording. "She's not going to take the shot. She won't do it." The whisper was unmistakable, calculated, intentional, a warning disguised as doubt. The convoy rolled forward. Lena's mind reeled, reconstructing the memory, the choices she had made in that storm, in that chaos. And then she saw it, the moment she had actually fired. One shot, accurate, deadly. The convoy erupted. Flames, chaos, screams. And then the whisper returned. "You see, she failed." Elias' hands trembled. "My brother, he was in that truck." The words hit Lena like a blow to the chest. She had tried to reconcile every memory, every decision, but now she faced the raw, unfiltered consequences of that day. Keller leaned back in shock. "Then it's worse than we thought." Lena exhaled slowly. Her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a storm. "Someone edited this. Someone manipulated it to look like I caused the destruction, to make me the scapegoat." The encrypted drive hummed quietly in Elias' hands, a physical manifestation of all the lies she had been living under. Suddenly, a distant alarm echoed through the base. The sound was sharp, urgent, slicing through the tension like a knife. Lena's instincts kicked in immediately. She scanned the perimeter, every exit, every corner, every shadowed alcove. The breach wasn't just a random intrusion, it was calculated, targeted, and personal. A young officer ran past them, shouting into a radio. "All units, lock down perimeter, someone's inside the base." Lena's eyes narrowed. She took a slow, deliberate step toward Elias. "Listen carefully. We don't have time. Whatever is coming, they are fast and they know exactly where we are. You have to get this drive to a secure location. Understand?" Elias nodded, but his face was pale. "But if I run, won't they?" "They're going to try," Lena said, voice low, deadly calm. "But they won't stop me. Not while I'm here. And I don't let people like you die unnecessarily." The sound of boots pounding on concrete drew their attention. Figures moved with purpose, shadows darting under the harsh lights of the motor pool. Lena's mind sharpened to razor focus. Whoever was coming had inside knowledge. They knew her, her movements, her history. They weren't here by chance. They were here for her. Elias' voice shook. You're not going to." "I'm going to survive," Lena interrupted, voice firm. "Like I always do. Now move." Before he could protest further, the motor pool doors slammed open with a violent crash. The force rattled equipment along the walls, sending sparks of metal onto the floor. Lena and Keller dove to the side instinctively, weapons raised. Through the dust and shadows she saw movement, a figure stepping calmly into the chaos. Tactical black uniform, visored helmet, rifle held with precise control, every step deliberate, every motion measured. Captain Rourke. Her stomach tightened. The name she had hoped never to hear again, the officer who had shadowed Black Ridge from the shadows, manipulating events, orchestrating deaths. He was here, on U.S. soil. Rourke's rifle swung slowly toward her. "Sergeant Hart," he said, voice cold and even, "it's time we finished what we started." Lena's breath hitched slightly, not in fear but in focus. Every muscle, every memory, every decision she had made in life sharpened into clarity. He wasn't here to negotiate. He wasn't here for the boy. He was here for her. And she knew one immutable truth. He didn't intend to let her walk away. The air in the motor pool thickened with tension. Every Marine present froze, unsure whether to advance or retreat. The alarms blared overhead, red emergency, lights flickering across the concrete and steel like strobes in a nightmare. Lena's eyes met Keller. The unspoken question hung in the air. What next? She exhaled slowly, silently counting the beats of her own pulse. Every mission, every training exercise, every sniper shot she had ever taken had led to this moment. She wasn't afraid. Not really. Fear was a tool, one she had mastered long ago. Rourke took a deliberate step forward, aiming the rifle directly at her chest. "Do not make me waste time," he said, calm, precise, deadly. Lena's boots dug into the concrete. Her hands found the grip of her sidearm. Her mind calculated every possible escape, every angle, every contingency. She knew this was no longer about orders or protocol. This was survival, pure and unfiltered. And in the distance, the faint, tremulous breathing of Elias reminded her that the stakes had just escalated beyond herself. One wrong move, and they would all die. And then Rourke raised his rifle, deliberate, slow. And the storm of Black Ridge returned to her mind, every second of it, and she realized this wasn't a battle of strength. It was a battle of will, instinct, and precision. She wasn't about to lose. And neither was Elias. The first shot rang out, echoing like thunder in the motor pool. The motor pool was chaos incarnate. Dust swirled in the harsh red emergency lights, mingling with the acrid tang of diesel and the electric sting of panic. Lena Hart crouched behind a stack of Humvee tires, her pistol trained on Captain Rourke, whose visored helmet reflected the erratic lights like a predator's eye. Every muscle in her body tensed, every sense amplified. She could feel the air shift as Rourke surveyed the room, methodical, precise, calculating. Major Keller crouched beside her, still clutching the laptop that held the key to the encrypted drive. He whispered, "We need to see what's on it. Now, whatever on that drive, it changes everything." Lena's eyes didn't leave Rourke. "Do it fast. He's not here for a conversation." Elias, trembling, held the drive like it was a lifeline. I don't know how it works," he stammered. "I was told only a few people could even open it." Lena glanced at him sharply. "Do you want to live or do you want to die?" The boy gulped, then handed the drive to Keller. Fingers flying, Keller connected it to the laptop. Lines of code flickered across the screen, encryption peeling away layer by layer. Each second stretched like an eternity, and with every passing heartbeat, Rourke's presence loomed closer, a constant, silent threat. Then suddenly the screen flickered to life. Grainy video filled the monitor, snow-blasted ridges, obscured figures moving like ghosts through the blizzard. And then Lena froze. It was her, but not her. The view aligned perfectly with her sniper scope, but the hands guiding the rifle belonged to someone else. Every shot she had taken, every adjustment of position, every breath she'd controlled in those lethal moments had been observed by a hidden presence, someone on the ridge, documenting everything. Her stomach tightened. Someone had been recording her without her knowledge, someone who had been hiding in the storm, watching, calculating, deciding what she could and could not do. A whisper sounded in the video, faint but chilling. "She's not going to take the shot. She won't do it." The voice wasn't just a comment. It was a manipulation, a challenge, a warning. Lena's blood ran cold. She had no doubt who it was. Rourke. Only he had the patience, the audacity, the technical skill to record her in such conditions without leaving evidence of his presence. The convoy in the video moved forward. Lena's finger twitched. She remembered the blinding wind, the teeth-chattering cold, the impossible angles she had fought to maintain. And then one shot, her shot, precise, deadly. And the whisper returned. "You see, she failed." Elia's hands shook violently. "My brother, he was in that truck." The words hit Lena like a hammer. Her chest tightened. This was not just manipulation. This was murder by proxy, a lie edited and curated to hide the real crime and to make her the scapegoat. Keller leaned back in disbelief. "So, it's worse than we thought. Someone been rewriting history." "Yes," Lena whispered, jaw tight. "Someone wanted the story to point at me, to make me the villain." Her hands clenched into fists. She felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the same clarity she experienced before every mission, every life-or-death shot. Then the laptop flickered and the footage changed. This time it wasn't her rifle view. The camera angle widened, showing the ridge in full. And there he was, a shadowed figure moving carefully, making decisions, issuing silent commands. Rourke. The realization struck Lena like a punch to the gut. He hadn't been assigned officially. His presence was unauthorized, illegal, a ghost in the operation, but he had been there, directly influencing events. "Why?" Elias whispered, voice breaking. "Why would anyone do this?" Lena's eyes narrowed. She didn't answer immediately, because the answer was worse than the question. The footage didn't just show him on the ridge. It showed him orchestrating deaths, using Marines as bait, manipulating events to his advantage. Her pulse hammered. She felt the familiar edge of rage and fear mingled together, the same edge that had kept her alive in more than one firefight, in more than one impossible operation. Keller spoke again, voice low and urgent. "Sergeant Hart, if this is real, if he really did this, the implications." Before he could finish, the alarm changed. It shifted from a base-wide emergency to something far more personal, far more threatening. The floor vibrated slightly beneath them. A muffled crash echoed from outside the motor pool. Rourke's shadow moved with the uncanny precision of a hunter. He wasn't panicked. He didn't rush. He approached systematically, aware of every angle, aware of every observer. He knew they had the drive. He knew it was only a matter of seconds before they could use it against him. The lights flickered. Lena's instincts kicked in. She motioned to Elias. "Listen to me. I'm going to create a diversion. You get that drive to somewhere safe. Understand?" The boy nodded, eyes wide with terror. I can't." "Yes, you can," Lena snapped, her voice sharper than she expected. "Move or die now." Elias bolted, ducking under the Humvee tires as Lena drew her sidearm, moving in fluid, practiced motions. Every muscle, every nerve, every decision honed over years of combat surged forward. Rourke paused, his visor reflecting Lena perfectly. "You think you can stop this, Sergeant?" His voice was calm, cold, and deadly precise. "The truth you hold will never see the light, not while I live." "Maybe not while you live," Lena said, her voice steady, even as her heart hammered in her chest. "But it will see the light after you die." The first shot rang out, not from her but from a distant part of the motor pool. Sparks flew as bullets hit metal. Rourke ducked instinctively, revealing the first crack in his perfect composure. Lena seized the moment. She rolled, firing a controlled shot that grazed his shoulder, forcing him to pivot. The noise and chaos drew the attention of every Marine in the area. Keller shouted, "Move, secure the boy." Elias ducked behind a Humvee, clutching the drive like a lifeline. The laptop continued to stream the incriminating footage, showing every lie, every manipulation, every death orchestrated by Rourke himself. Lena's mind raced. This was no longer about evasion, no longer about simple survival. Every move, every shot, every decision would determine not only her life, but the exposure of a conspiracy that went all the way to the top. Rourke's movements were calculated, surgical. Every step he took was precise, designed to herd, to intimidate, to eliminate witnesses without alerting too many at once. But Lena had the advantage he didn't expect, the same instincts that had earned her the sniper patch no one earns easily. Precision, patience, Anticipation. She fired again, forcing him to retreat momentarily. Sparks flew as his rifle struck steel, and the shadowed figure cursed under his breath. "Keep running, Elias," Lena shouted, "and don't look back." The boy obeyed, disappearing into the chaos as Lena's eyes never left Rourke. He had underestimated her. He always underestimated her. And as the sound of distant sirens and reinforced Marines grew closer, Lena knew something vital. The drive wasn't just evidence. It was a key. A key to exposing Black Ridge, Rourke, and everything hidden beneath the snow, the lies, and the silence. But Rourke wasn't finished, and Lena had learned long ago that he never forgave mistakes. She took a slow, deliberate breath, hands steady on her pistol, eyes locked on her target. One wrong move, one hesitation, and this wouldn't just be another firefight. This would be a massacre rewritten in shadows and lies. And then the laptop flickered again, showing the footage she had already memorized. But this time, it revealed a movement she hadn't seen before, a shadow behind Rourke, another presence. Someone else had been watching all along. Lena's pulse spiked. "So it's not just him," she whispered. "It's never just him." And before anyone could react, a second set of boots echoed across the motor pool. Closer, faster, intent clear in every step. The storm of Black Ridge had returned to her life. And this time, it had come home. The motor pool was a storm of chaos. Red emergency lights cast elongated, jagged shadows over scattered Humvees. Lena Hart crouched behind a vehicle, pistol drawn, adrenaline coursing through her veins like molten steel. Each second stretched, measured by instincts honed in combat zones where hesitation meant death. Rourke had retreated momentarily, nursing a grazed shoulder, but Lena knew better than to underestimate him. Every step he had taken at Black Ridge, every decision, every silent manipulation had led to this moment. And he wasn't alone. The laptop continued streaming footage, showing not only the ridge but a second set of figures, men in black tactical gear, moving in unison behind Rourke. Someone had orchestrated the operation from the shadows. Someone who had watched her every move long before she ever knew their existence. Elias, clutching the encrypted drive, crouched behind Lena. Fear was etched into his young face, but determination shone through. Who are they?" he asked, voice trembling. Lena's eyes never left the advancing shadows. "They're people who have been manipulating Black Ridge from the start. People who have been pulling strings we didn't even know existed. And they know exactly who I am." A sudden clang echoed across the motor pool as a steel crate toppled over, the noise punctuating the tension. Rourke's visor gleamed in the light as he spoke, cold and deliberate. "Lena Hart, step into the open. There's no running this time." Her pulse surged, but fear didn't touch her. Every fiber of her being had prepared her for moments like this. This wasn't just survival, it was justice, delayed and coming with the weight of years and blood. Keller whispered urgently beside her, "We need to get that drive somewhere safe, if they get it." "I know," Lena said sharply. "Move now." Elias bolted, weaving through overturned equipment and scattered crates. Lena covered him, each shot precise, each movement a statement of lethal intent. Rourke's shadow moved with uncanny precision, blocking every potential escape route, every gap in cover. And then Lena saw it, a figure stepping from the shadows behind Rourke. Not fully in tactical gear, not fully masked, but familiar, horrifyingly familiar. "Commander Briggs," Lena whispered, almost under her breath. Her stomach twisted. The name was a ghost from her past, one she had hoped never to hear again. Briggs had been the silent observer during Black Ridge, the one who had stayed behind the lines, orchestrating deaths without ever getting his hands dirty. And now he was here, alive, orchestrating a new hunt. Rourke and Briggs exchanged a brief glance, an unspoken communication that Lena immediately recognized. Both men had survived Black Ridge with secrets that could destroy her. Both men had been part of the machinery that turned a chaotic mission into a cover-up. Lena's mind raced. She had to act quickly. The encrypted drive wasn't just proof, it was leverage, a weapon in its own right. But the boy was still exposed, and every second counted. She fired another controlled shot, grazing Rourke's arm again. Sparks flew, steel clanged, and the man cursed under his breath. He retreated behind a Humvee, giving Lena a narrow window. "Run," she shouted at Elias. The boy bolted, clutching the drive to his chest like a lifeline. Lena followed, firing over her shoulder, keeping both Rourke and Briggs at bay. The motor pool doors rattled. More shadows approached, reinforcements from somewhere unknown. Lena's mind catalogued every exit, every cover, every angle. Her history as a sniper demanded perfection, and she was far from perfect, but she had survived impossible situations before. A flare ignited near the ceiling, casting everything in stark orange light. Lena paused for a split second, calculating the angles. Briggs stepped forward, voice cold, deliberate. "Lena, you don't understand. The mission, the operation, everything you think you know." "I know enough," Lena interrupted, voice steady, controlled, deadly. "Enough to know you're responsible. Enough to know you tried to destroy everything I care about." Rourke moved again carefully, but Lena anticipated it. She fired a precise shot that struck the barrel of his rifle, sending sparks flying. He pivoted, shouting in frustration. Keller moved toward Elias, covering him, but the boy stumbled, dropping the drive. Lena reacted instantly, diving to intercept it, rolling behind cover as bullets struck all around her. She snatched the drive, pressing it against her chest. Briggs's eyes narrowed. "You think a piece of metal can save you. You've underestimated me before, Hart. You always have." Lena's lips pressed into a thin line. "And yet here you are, surviving on the same mistakes you made at Black Ridge. That's why you fail." The words barely left her mouth when a second figure emerged from the shadows, a sniper in full ghillie suit, positioned on a high catwalk overlooking the motor pool. Lena's breath caught. The sniper had a clear line of sight, a lethal angle. Her pulse slowed, focus sharpened. She had been trained for this moment, though she hadn't expected it to arrive on American soil. She assessed distance, angle, wind, every factor calculated in microseconds. Rourke noticed it too. He cursed, retreating further, realizing the sniper was on their side, her unseen ally in the chaos. Lena understood immediately. The sniper had been deployed by someone loyal, someone who had anticipated Rourke and Briggs's moves. She didn't have time to think, only to act. She fired a controlled shot at a steel beam near the ghillie-clad sniper, signaling recognition. The sniper responded with a single nod before disappearing from view. Briggs's eyes widened. "How?" "Not your concern," Lena interrupted. "Move or die." The tension in the motor pool was nearly unbearable. Every Marine, every shadow, every echo was part of a deadly chessboard. Lena had only one objective: protect Elias and the drive, expose the truth, survive. Elias reached a corner of the motor pool, chest heaving, eyes wide with terror. Lena moved beside him, pistol ready. "Listen to me. We're almost clear. Stay close. Move on my signal." Rourke and Briggs exchanged another glance. The subtle panic in their movements betrayed cracks in their control. The first few seconds of silence passed, and then Briggs moved forward, voice cold, precise. "You think you've won. The world doesn't work in your favor, Hart. You're alone." "I'm never alone," Lena said, her voice low, deadly resolute. "I've never been alone, and this drive proves it." The words carried weight, not just for the enemy but for Elias, for every Marine who had ever fought alongside her, for every truth buried in snow and lies. Then, just as Briggs advanced, Lena's instincts kicked in. She fired a shot, not to kill but to create a distraction. Sparks flew as bullets struck metal. Rourke shouted in frustration, and the momentary chaos gave Elias the opportunity to run toward a service door at the far end of the motor pool. Lena followed, covering his path, pivoting, calculating every threat. She caught a glimpse of Briggs lunging for the drive, but her pistol was faster. Another precise shot sent him staggering back, momentarily disoriented. Breathing hard, Lena covered Elias as he disappeared into the service tunnel. The encrypted drive was safe, for now. Rourke and Briggs regrouped, eyes blazing with fury, realizing their prey was slipping from their grasp. Lena knew the fight wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time she had leverage. For the first time the truth was within reach. And as the distant sirens of base reinforcements grew closer, Lena made a silent vow. No one would manipulate her history again. No one would hide the truth of Black Ridge. Not Rourke, not Briggs, not anyone. The storm that had begun at the ridge years ago had finally come home. And Lena Hart was ready. The service tunnel was dimly lit, the hum of the fluorescent lights above almost drowned out by the rapid pounding of Lena Hart's boots on concrete. Elias ran ahead, clutching the encrypted drive like his life depended on it, which it did. Every instinct Lena possessed screamed urgency. Rourke and Briggs were still on the loose in the motor pool. They had the skills, the patience, and the ruthlessness to hunt them down, and Lena knew they would. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every corner, every faint sound. She didn't just trust her training, she trusted her experience. Years of survival, of reading human behavior in high-stakes combat, had honed her into a machine of precision and anticipation. "Elias, stay low," she whispered, vaulting over a fallen pipe. The boy stumbled, nearly dropping the drive. Lena grabbed it just in time, holding it against her chest. His wide-eyed terror was evident, but his legs carried him forward, guided by sheer adrenaline. Up ahead, the tunnel opened into a storage corridor. Lena paused for a brief second, listening. Footsteps echoed faintly from the motor pool above. Rourke and Briggs were regrouping, planning their next move. That meant she had time, but only seconds to act. She crouched low, pressing Elias against the wall. "Listen carefully. There's a secure exit at the far end. You get there and you don't stop. Understand?" I understand," he whispered, voice trembling. "Good, now run." Elias bolted, disappearing into the shadows of the corridor. Lena stayed back, scanning, calculating. She wasn't going to let Rourke or Briggs simply vanish with the threat still alive. She needed leverage, and she had just one plan: force them into a trap. She moved quickly but silently, tracing the tunnel back toward the motor pool entrance. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured. The adrenaline made her senses razor-sharp. The hum of the lights, the faint vibration of the concrete beneath her boots, even the distant echo of Rourke's voice shouting orders to Briggs. Lena ducked behind a maintenance doorway, peering out. Rourke and Briggs had emerged from the motor pool, scanning the corridors. Rourke's shoulder was bruised from her earlier shot, but his precision was still deadly. Briggs was cold, methodical, calculating every angle. The pair didn't notice Lena at first. They never did, not until she made her move. She activated the first stage of her counterattack, a small, portable EMP device she had smuggled from an old deployment kit. Its purpose was simple: disable any electronics in the immediate vicinity. Cameras, sensors, communications, all dead. She placed it carefully behind a maintenance panel, then retreated to the shadows. Seconds later, the device pulsed, sending out a silent wave that flickered the lights and caused Rourke to curse under his breath. His visor flickered as he tried to recalibrate. "Shadows," Lena muttered under her breath, "always underestimated." Briggs moved cautiously toward the disturbance. Lena's heart pounded, but fear was tempered with precision. She had trained for situations like this, against enemies who were faster, smarter, deadlier. And she knew that the drive in Elias' hands wasn't just evidence, it was leverage. Leverage they had underestimated. She emerged from the shadows, pistol raised, voice calm but commanding. "Stop, both of you, now." Rourke spun, rifle raised. Briggs froze, calculating angles. The tension was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Lena's eyes never left them. She wasn't bluffing. Every movement she had made in combat, every mission she had survived, every life she had saved or lost, it had all led to this moment. "You think you can intimidate me?" Lena asked. "After everything at Black Ridge?" Rourke's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what's coming, Hart. The world doesn't work in your favor." "No," Lena said, stepping forward, "but today the truth does." She pressed a button on a small transmitter she carried. A faint beep echoed. Moments later, the base's security monitors, now partially disabled by the EMP, flickered back to life, showing footage from hidden cameras around the motor pool. Every move Rourke and Briggs had made, every violation, every hidden action was being broadcast to the base's command center. Rourke's jaw clenched. Briggs froze, recognizing the trap. "You can't do that," Briggs hissed. "I already have," Lena said. Her voice was steady, filled with the kind of certainty that had earned her the sniper patch no one earned easily. Rourke took a step forward, fury flashing in his eyes. "You're making a mistake. You have no idea." "I know exactly," Lena interrupted. "Exactly who you are, exactly what you did at Black Ridge, and I know you tried to cover it up, but no more." Briggs's expression twisted. Lena could see the fear behind his calculated facade. He had relied on secrecy, manipulation, and fear for years, and now it was crumbling before him. From the corridor behind Elia's, reinforcements arrived, Marines alerted by the monitor feed. Lena didn't need to fight them all. She only needed control of the narrative, the evidence, and the enemy's fear. Rourke and Briggs glanced at the approaching Marines, then at Lena. In that split second, calculation gave way to survival instinct. Neither man was willing to risk open confrontation when their actions had been exposed. "You're going to regret this," Rourke spat. "I don't think so," Lena said calmly, her eyes never leaving him. "You already lost the moment you underestimated me." She turned, motioning for Elias to follow. "Move." The two of them ran through the service corridors, now safe behind the approaching reinforcements. Lena's heart was still pounding, but her focus was absolute. She knew the battle wasn't over. The threat of Rourke and Briggs still lingered, but she had achieved the first victory, exposing the evidence and protecting the boy. As they reached a secure command hub, Lena handed the drive to Keller. "Get this to the highest authority immediately. Every file, every frame. Make sure no one tampers with it." Keller nodded, awed and shaken. This could change everything." "It will," Lena said. "It has to. Black Ridge cannot remain a lie any longer." Elia's hands were still trembling, but Lena gave him a reassuring glance. "You did well. You kept it safe. That's what matters." The boy nodded, eyes wide. He had just survived a hunt, a confrontation that could have ended his life, and yet Lena made him feel seen, valuable, important. That was her way. That was why she survived. Outside, the red emergency lights were beginning to fade as base security regained control. Lena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what had just happened. Rourke and Briggs were still alive, but the exposure of their actions had shifted the balance. They were no longer untouchable. Her mind returned to Black Ridge, to the lives lost, to the lies buried under snow and silence. Today, she had taken the first step toward justice, not just for herself, but for everyone who had been wronged. And as she looked at Elias, clutching the drive with a mixture of fear and awe, she realized the storm that had begun on the ridge years ago was finally starting to break. The enemy was still out there. The battle was far from over. But Lena Hart, Marine, sniper, survivor, was ready for whatever came next. Because this time she wasn't alone and the truth was finally in her hands. Lena Hart's pulse was still high, but her mind was razor-sharp. The drive had been secured with Major Keller, and Elias was safe behind reinforced doors. For the first time in years, the truth of Black Ridge was within reach, but Lena knew better than to relax. Rourke and Briggs were still out there, and neither man would disappear quietly. She moved through the command hub, her boots silent against the steel-reinforced floor. Every Marine she passed glanced at her with respect tinged with awe. The sniper patch on her uniform wasn't just a symbol, it was a warning. They knew what she could do. They knew what she had survived. Keller was still seated at a terminal, fingers flying over the keyboard as he transmitted the encrypted drive to secure servers at multiple top-level commands. Lena could see the strain in his posture. This is unprecedented, he muttered. They won't know what hit them. Good, Lena said, her voice steady, calm, but carrying the edge of a predator. But don't assume this is over. They're coming. She was right. In the shadows outside the hub, footsteps echoed. Not the cautious, hesitant steps of someone trying to hide, but deliberate, confident, precise. Lena's eyes narrowed. She recognized the sound before she even saw the figures. Rourke and Briggs. Rourke stepped first, his shoulders still bruised from her earlier shots. Briggs followed, silent, calculating, moving like a specter from the past. The two men had coordinated at Black Ridge, and now their partnership had returned, sharpened and more dangerous than ever. You didn't think you could trap us, Hart, Rourke said, voice low, deadly, with the faintest edge of anger. We adapt. You adapted by trying to manipulate lives and orchestrate deaths, Lena shot back. You're not untouchable, not anymore. Briggs's face twisted into a cold sneer. You have no idea what's coming. Lena's fingers hovered over her sidearm, but she didn't shoot immediately. Experience had taught her the value of patience. Every mission, every sniper operation had been a study in timing and precision. She didn't need to act first, she needed to act right. Major Keller, she whispered, glancing back at the terminal. Keep transmitting. Don't stop until you're certain it's out. Keller's fingers flew over the keyboard. Already done. It's moving to 3 secure channels, top-level encryption. Nothing can touch it now. Good, Lena said, exhaling slowly. She turned back to face her adversaries. Rourke's eyes were like steel, cold and unyielding. Briggs's calm intensity was unnerving. Together they were a perfect storm of deadly skill, but Lena thrived in chaos. Without warning, Rourke lunged, weapon raised, aiming to pin her down. Lena reacted instinctively, rolling to the side, drawing her pistol in one fluid motion. A shot rang out, precise and controlled, striking the wall near his head. Sparks flew. Rourke ducked instinctively, momentarily off balance. Briggs moved forward simultaneously, calculating angles, closing in from her blind spot. Lena anticipated his movement. She pivoted, sidestepping, letting her momentum carry her behind a support column. Every microsecond mattered. One wrong move and she'd be pinned between 2 expert combatants. The room erupted in a flurry of movement. Shots rang out, ricocheting off metal walls. Lena moved with lethal grace, every step calculated, every breath controlled. She knew their style, the same precision, the same anticipation she had faced at Black Ridge, now turned against her. A flash of movement caught her eye. One of the ceiling-mounted cameras, still partially functional despite the EMP, reflected a shadow. An ally sniper she hadn't realized had arrived. A nod confirmed it. Lena understood immediately. Cover fire, distraction, leverage. She fired, creating sparks and noise to mask her movements, drawing Rourke's attention just long enough for her ally to strike from above. The effect was immediate. Rourke stumbled back, fury etched across his face. Briggs's focus wavered, eyes narrowing in calculation. Lena seized the moment. She sprinted toward the secure door, pistol raised, mind calculating every angle. She had to keep control of the flow, control of the battlefield, control of the truth. Briggs shouted, "Stop her!" But Lena was already moving, using every shadow, every cover, every inch of space to her advantage. Her body moved like a weapon, lethal, precise, unstoppable. Through the chaos, Lena saw Elias waiting beyond the next corridor, the encrypted drive clutched tightly to his chest. She sprinted toward him, ducking behind crates, rolling under low-hanging pipes, firing controlled shots that didn't just wound, they commanded attention. "Run, Elias, go now," Lena shouted, urgency in every syllable. The boy bolted, disappearing into the secondary service exit. Lena followed, her movements a blur, Rourke and Briggs hot on her heels. But she wasn't panicked, never panicked. She led them through narrow corridors, twisting stairwells and maintenance shafts, each turn calculated to split their attention, isolate threats, and create openings. The environment became a weapon in her hands, steel beams, pipes, crates, shadows, all leveraged to maximum effect. Finally, they reached a reinforced exit that led to the base's perimeter. Lena kicked it open and sprinted into the open night air, rain-slick concrete reflecting the red warning lights. Rourke and Briggs were just steps behind. She didn't hesitate. Timing, distance, precision, everything she had learned over years of sniper missions crystallized in this moment. She spotted a narrow ledge along the side of the building, just wide enough for one person to move quickly. With one fluid motion, she vaulted onto it, keeping her balance, pistol trained, eyes on her targets. Rourke lunged after her, but she anticipated his movement, firing a shot that forced him back. Briggs hesitated for a split second, calculating, and that hesitation was all Lena needed. The perimeter alarms blared as base reinforcements finally arrived, drawn by the drive's secure transmission. Lena used the moment to signal Elias. He was approaching safely from the other side. "Move to cover," she shouted, guiding him. The reinforcements converged, cutting off Rourke and Briggs from their escape. Lena felt the satisfaction of control returning, a rare, precious clarity amidst the chaos. She had turned the hunters into the hunted. Rourke and Briggs, trapped now, exchanged a glance that carried fury, calculation, and grudging respect. They were skilled predators, but Lena Hart had anticipated their every move. Keller appeared behind her, breathless but steady. "You did it," he said, voice filled with awe. "I did what I had to," Lena replied, still scanning, still alert. "This isn't over, not by a long shot, but we've gained the upper hand." The encrypted drive, now secured by base command, would reveal everything. The manipulations, the cover-ups, the deaths orchestrated at Black Ridge. It was the first real step toward justice. Lena exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in her body ease just slightly. The storm of Black Ridge was far from over, but she had survived. She had protected the evidence, saved Elias, and outmaneuvered two of the most dangerous operatives she had ever faced. And as Rourke and Briggs were escorted into custody, Lena realized something crucial. The sniper patch she earned wasn't just about skill. It was about survival, precision, and the courage to face ghosts that others refused to acknowledge. The truth was finally in motion, and Lena Hart, the Marine who had survived the impossible, was ready to see it through, no matter the cost. Rain lashed against the reinforced windows of the command center as Lena Hart watched the screen, her hands resting lightly on the edge of the terminal. Outside, the base was alive with activity, Marines moving with precision, vehicles rolling into secure positions, alarms echoing into the night. But Lena's focus was entirely on the encrypted drive, now fully transmitted to secure servers across multiple government channels. Major Keller sat beside her, eyes glued to the monitor. "It's all there, every file, every video, every manipulated report. Rourke and Briggs won't be able to hide from this." Lena's lips pressed into a thin line. Relief was secondary to focus. The storm wasn't over yet. She knew better than anyone that power like Rourke's and cunning like Briggs's didn't disappear quietly. But this was the first time truth had a chance. A quiet beep interrupted her thoughts. A secure message flashed across the monitor. confirmation that the evidence had reached the Department of Defense, the Inspector General, and multiple congressional oversight committees. Lena exhaled slowly. The long shadow of Black Ridge was finally being pierced. "Do you think they'll finally answer for everything?" Elias asked, his voice small, almost tentative. The boy had grown in courage over the last 24 hours, surviving threats most adults couldn't even comprehend. "They will," Lena said firmly. "And this time it's out in the open, no more shadows, no more lies." But before she could celebrate, the room shuddered slightly. The reinforced doors rattled, and a familiar presence made itself known. Rourke, bruised but not broken, and Briggs, eyes cold and calculating, standing just outside the secure perimeter. "You think this changes anything?" Rourke shouted through the intercom, voice dripping with venom. "You've exposed pieces, Lena, but the game isn't over." Briggs added, calm but lethal, "You've won a battle, not the war, and you will regret this exposure." Lena didn't flinch. Instead, she tapped into the network she had prepared: hidden cameras, automated security overrides, and a series of fail-safe protocols designed for exactly this situation. Base reinforcements moved into position silently, strategically, closing in around the two operatives. "Major Keller," she said, voice cold and precise, "lock them out of every exit. They have nowhere to go." Keller nodded, fingers flying over the keyboard. "Already done. They're contained. No weapons, no comms, nothing." Rourke's face twisted in fury. "You'll pay for this, Hart." Lena's expression remained calm. "No, Rourke, you'll answer for this. You've manipulated lives, orchestrated deaths, and buried the truth. But today, the shadows end." The intercom clicked off, and silence descended, heavy and tense. Then, Lena moved toward the secure containment area where Rourke and Briggs were held under armed guard. The red lights from overhead reflected off the wet concrete floor, giving the scene a cinematic, almost surreal glow. She entered the room, pistol at the ready, eyes locked on the two men who had haunted her nightmares and missions for years. Rourke smirked despite his situation. Briggs's calm exterior cracked just slightly, betraying the weight of the truth that was now undeniable. "Do you understand what this means?" Lena asked, voice steady. "Every manipulated report, every false narrative, every innocent life you twisted, it's all coming to light." Rourke spat, defiance in every movement. "You think this matters? You're a pawn in a system you barely understand." "You're wrong," Lena said, advancing slowly. "I understand far more than you ever imagined. I know what you did at Black Ridge. I know how you tried to control the narrative, manipulate outcomes, and silence witnesses. And now, the world knows too." Briggs's jaw clenched. "You'll be dead before this hits them," he muttered, but Lena only smiled faintly. "I've survived worse," she said, her tone almost light though her eyes were steel. "You underestimated me once at Black Ridge. You made a mistake you'll never recover from." Outside, reinforcements tightened the perimeter. Every Marine involved had been briefed, every path to escape blocked. Rourke and Briggs realized it. They were trapped. And this time, the advantage was not theirs. Lena reached the containment door and tapped it. "You're going to answer for your actions. Every life lost, every cover-up, justice is coming. You tried to manipulate history, but history has a way of catching up." Rourke's smirk faltered, replaced with a flicker of fear. Briggs's calm, measured composure wavered, the weight of exposure finally sinking in. "You think you've won," Briggs said quietly. "But there are forces beyond this base, forces you don't understand. Black Ridge isn't over." Lena's expression hardened. "Maybe not, but the truth is, and that's more powerful than you could ever be." The guards moved in, securing the two operatives, while Lena stepped back, eyes scanning the room, still alert. She knew better than to let her guard down entirely, but for the first time in years she felt a measure of closure. Keller approached, glancing at the secure drive. "The evidence is out. There's no hiding it now, not even for them." Lena nodded. Her mind flashed back to the ridge, to the snow, to the chaos, to the lives lost and decisions forced upon her in impossible circumstances. The weight of those memories pressed on her, but now they were balanced with something rarer: justice, finally within reach. Elias stepped forward, holding the drive tightly. "We did it," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "We actually did it." Lena gave him a small, rare smile. "You kept it safe. You protected the truth. That's more than most could do at your age." The boy's eyes glimmered with pride and relief. I'm glad you're here." Lena placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "I'll always be here, and now so will the truth." Outside, rain continued to fall, washing over the base, shimmering across concrete and steel like a cleansing storm. The storm of Black Ridge years of lies, manipulation, and death was finally being washed away, leaving clarity and accountability in its wake. Lena walked to the perimeter, looking out at the dark, rain-slicked expanse. She could feel the weight of the past lifting slightly, replaced with the quiet satisfaction of a job done, justice served, truth revealed. And though Rourke and Briggs still existed, still plotted, still posed threats in the shadows, Lena knew one immutable fact: she had survived impossible odds before. She had outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and endured, and she would do it again if she had to. The encrypted drive had changed everything. Black Ridge's lies were exposed. The operatives were captured. The Marines who had followed her, trusted her, believed in her, could finally see the truth. For Lena Hart, sniper, Marine, survivor, and bearer of the patch no one earned easily, it was more than a victory. It was vindication. And as the rain continued to fall, washing away shadows and echoes alike, Lena allowed herself the briefest smile. The storm had ended, but she knew, deep in her bones, that she would always be ready for the next one.